with Garry Tonon. For people who don't know, Garry Tonon is one of the greatest grapplers in the world, widely considered potentially the most exciting grappler in the world. Switched over to mixed martial arts fighting over in ONE FC in Asia. So first, thanks for coming in, Garry.
Oh yeah, thanks so much, man. It's cool to see you again, man. You know, Jake's been training with us over the years at Henzo's when we were in New York, and has been to Austin, you know, several times, whatever. And we've been out to San Fran to train with him at Gilbert Melendez's gym and stuff too. So we have a long history together now, and it's always been, well, I can't say every training session was enjoyable, but it's always a good time to hang out with Jake. So
yeah, we've been good friends for a long time, and you know, you're a complete maniac. Probably say the same about me. We've beaten the hell out of each other many times, but I think it almost makes you closer when you just beat the crap out of each other.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's an interesting relationship dynamic, but one of the things I always tell people about Jake is like, when you train with Jake, there's just some people who, oh yeah, you don't know how good somebody is, you don't know, but like there's just a quality to the physicality that Jake brings to a training session where he's able to just like hold on to a squeeze. Like most people, you know, okay, they get into a body lock or something and you try to move around and if you can tire them out, but like there's no quitting Jake whatsoever. Like it's just the same squeeze he had in the first minute is the same squeeze he has, you know, 15 minutes later. So it's like never going to get any easier. So yeah, it's tough, man.
Yeah, I show up always ready to go. I was thinking a funny story. You're one of the best grapplers in the world. And then you're like, oh, I want to do MMA. And John's like, oh, let's spar today.
That's right.
5 rounds with Jake Shields. You're brand new to a different sport. I'm just like, damn, but you went in there and just went at it 5 rounds. But it just shows I think maybe I want to see the toughness, the ability of you mentally to go in there and just, are you going to go 5 rounds with a,
right? Because
there's a big difference that you see between grappling and MMA grappling. And it's like, it's that transition where you got to be like, whoa, I got to make some adapt and change it up. But you like, you know, we fired 5 or 6 time sessions later, you were making huge adaptations to your training.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because it's something I probably wouldn't have thought off the top of my head, but when I'm talking to other people, like obviously we have that history, so we don't, you know, I don't mention it so often, but like when I'm talking to other people about my beginnings in MMA, I often mention that like some of the first like full sparring sessions I had were with you. It was for like, I don't know how long we were training. I don't know if it was like a week straight, 2 weeks straight or something like that. But it was just like, I would do 3 rounds with Jake every day. And I honestly think, and I tell people this all the time, like, I don't think John will ever say it, you know, come out straight out and say it, but I don't think John ever really wanted me to do MMA. I was thinking he was like, hoping that I would just consistently stick with grappling. It's like, it's so much more, you know, MMA is risky, man. You know, like I could have gone in there and just like embarrassed myself. Not that I necessarily thought that that's what he thought was going to happen, but it's just, there's a lot of risk involved. It's a tough sport. It's not easy to like make a name for it and all these things. He knew it was going to be a difficult thing. And I think it's almost like, I think most parents, even if you were a fighter, like you probably are thinking to yourself, like, I don't know how much I want my kid to like do this sport. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's kind of how John was. It's like he knew that I was already doing really well in grappling.
You're a phenomenal star of that.
And it's like, well, why mess that up? You know? And I think that part of his way of making sure that I was really into this and I really wanted to do it was making the early part of my training like very difficult. So it's like if I didn't really want to do it, I wasn't going to stick with it because it was tough to do those training sessions. Like you said from the very beginning, with the first person I'm sparring is you every day of the week, you know?
I know because John is a phenomenal coach. We all have amazing respects for him because he just goes, you're sparring Garry every day of these rounds. So none of us question him, but I'm sitting there thinking like, why is he like starting him off with me? You know, like why are you putting him with like one of the toughest guys? Your very first rounds when you're learning a new sport. Yeah, there's similarities, but it's a different sport. And it's just like does he want? I think maybe he's trying to see, are you serious? Are you going to quit? And
I think that might be true.
I think I asked John. He gave some weird answer, but I didn't believe his answer.
It
was a very technical, but it felt like it had to just be like because he did it like a month in a row, and then all of a sudden he started giving you easier people.
Yeah.
Like, okay, you passed.
Right.
Then he started giving you, you know, but you learned so much through that month. Like I said, it was rough, but you learned so much and you showed you were not going to quit.
Yeah, for sure. Another aspect of that, like now we do a lot of little glove sparring, but back then we pretty much exclusively did boxing, 16-ounce boxing gloves. And like, it's even more difficult, ironically, to deal with you with 16-ounce boxing gloves because I can't like manipulate hands or anything like that. So if I want to like dig inside of an underhook, I got a 16-ounce boxing glove. I got to wedge in there. So it was just like every round getting taken down. The one thing I guess I am thankful for is that like at least you're a grappling based mixed martial artist.
Likely to try to knock
if you were
you
just,
out,
if you were just like hammering my face the entire time, it would be probably pretty rough. So.
And you mentioned the big gloves too. I've actually have a lot of experience sparring with big gloves like that too. So you're brand new to that. It was brand new to all this thing. And John just like, yeah, you're sparring him every day. I'm just like, I'm not going to question John. You're not going to question John.
Right,
so no one really, you don't really question John in the gym.
Yep, exactly.
He's a guy. We trust him, So if you're John, he's not an idiot. He must have some kind of plan. As many of you know, I have many controversial guests, so that comes at a cost of being demonetized everywhere. So if you want to support the program, go to fightbackpodcast.com, and I have all kinds of merch on there, whether it's jiu-jitsu, fighting, political, and other accessories. And thanks for the support.
Yeah, I would say that's true, not questioning John, with the exception of occasional fights that I get into with John where he's being like John and just being like your other left arm or whatever the case may be. And I'll be like, man, I'm pretty sure I'm doing it like the exact way you just asked me to do it. And I'll get like super stubborn and argumentative with him. But it's just funny because most people, like you said, like don't do that.
Most people are terrified of John, but yeah, you and John can get in it sometimes. I think I don't know if I should mention this or not, but the B teams guys said something about John was abusive or something, and I was so confused. And I asked, I think it was Gordon was talking about. He's like, remember one time John had gone through a bad surgery, he's in a bad mood, and I think he was irritated, he was showing something, and he like smacked you in your head or something. Not even that hard, just like because you guys feud sometimes. It was just like a play, like friendly. Maybe he was going through pain of surgery, and I'm like, that's abuse. It's just like not at all.
I'll tell my John Uke story. So this is what I experienced, and it was probably quickly why I was never a consistent Uke for John. Like
he was brutal towards you, I will say.
Yeah, but I've been like Uke for John here and there, when he needed me. But for the most part, I've never been like a guy that he picks out of a lineup of people. It's like, that's the guy I want to drill with.
Yeah.
So when we would go train with George, getting ready in Montreal for, I think it was the Nick fight was the first one. And John was using me as an uke. Now, in New York, he never used me as an uke because he usually had one of his guys that had been there forever, like Brian Glick, to use as an uke. And it's like he's familiar with that, whatever. But when we traveled to TriStar, I was the only person, like other than the TriStar guys, I was the only person that like he was comfortable with and knew. So he was probably like, oh, I'll just use it, Garry, as an uke. What could go wrong? Like he's decent at jiu-jitsu. It should be fine. But like, I was so like, I am so ADHD, like, we just talked about this before we even jumped in the podcast. I'm so like ADHD. And on top of that, I was super sleep deprived at the time. Like when I was in college, like trying to train, I was in college, like taking like 18 credits a semester, training full time, driving all over the place. I was living in Jersey, driving to New York to train, doing all these things. I was sleeping like 4 hours a day. And so between the sleep deprivation and the lack of attention, he's drilling with me and we're in turtle and he's doing a drill where you like knock a guy down in turtle position and then punch him like over and under the arms or something. But part of that drill is you knock the guy down and he gets back up and he knocked me down and I just like wasn't paying attention. I zoned out. I'm looking at the ceiling or something. Yeah. And he goes, and then he gets back up. And then he gets back up and I'm just in my own little world, not paying attention. And he just starts punching me in the ribs. Not like hard or anything. It wasn't anything crazy. But I was like, oh. And then I popped up and got back up. But, so yeah, stuff like that happens. But also like, okay, like here's my thing. It's like if John's teaching like kids class, okay, I kind of understand.
He's not gonna do that.
I kind of understand if your issues and stuff like that. But it's also like, guys,
we're professionals.
We're professional athletes, but not just professional athletes. We're not professional basketball players. We're professional martial artists, guys. Like we literally deal with violence on a day-to-day basis. And like I'm not saying that excuses any and all potential abuse or anything like that. But let's be honest, like there's going to be some physicality involved in like what we're doing. And that's part of the way we're going to be communicating with each other because we're martial artists, right? And it's interesting, like, I'm not going to comment on like specific people or anything like that, but it's just interesting the way that the different, generations of people that are doing jujitsu kind of treat martial arts these days. Like, I think when you started doing jujitsu, like you started doing wrestling first and then jujitsu, right?
Like 99.
Right. But when you did it, correct me if I'm wrong, but because this was my experience. Like, when I got involved from the beginning till now, I was like, I didn't look at it as like, oh, this is like a fun little thing that I'm going to do. And it's just like this sport. I like got involved in jujitsu thinking that it was going to help prepare me to potentially have a fight against somebody at some point. Like, even though I didn't do mixed martial arts from the very beginning and I was just doing jujitsu, my thought process was I could get into a fight. I'm going to use this if I get into a fight. And I really feel like the mentality that people go into jujitsu with now, because it's so much more popular and it's, we're marketing it to the the average person, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but what I'll say is it's created a generation of athletes who I think like the idea of getting punched in the face or like getting roughed up a little bit other than just regular jujitsu is like, they're very uncomfortable with it. And it's like, man, like I'd have full, like, sometimes, like, even in regular jujitsu, I'd just be pissed at somebody or somebody be pissed at me, or we'd get in an argument or something would happen and we'd start slapping each other or something. Like,
that was just normal.
Dude, like, this is like real normal stuff. Like, and for now, the culture of jujitsu is like very not okay with something like that happening. It's strange.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Fights used to be really common when I came up, and it's just like, it was the norm, like, I'm kind of rough. Like, I don't think we've ever been in a fight, but occasionally we get rough with each other.
Right,
and it's like, remember one day at Hinzo, some guy comes in, oh, I'm Hinzo's buddy, a Brazilian guy, and then he like tries to bite me or something, so I start beating him up. And then he runs out and tells John, and I'm thinking like, oh shit, I'm gonna get kicked out of the gym because it's Hinzo's friend. But Hinzo knows everyone. And then John just afterwards just laughing, making fun of the guy. I was just like, damn, I'm not gonna be able to train here anymore. And John like thought it was hilarious. But that's what was great about the environment. Once he did that, I'm like, oh, John's cool. Yeah. He understands that sometimes there's gonna be fights at gyms. Yeah. It's just it's a fighting sport, and it's rough. No, but it's sometimes these new school jiu-jitsu guys, like my style is a little bit rough. Sometimes I have a hard time dealing with it because I might come in, headbutt them a little bit, grind them, run them off the mat.
Another guy that's like that I see a lot of modern day guys struggle with is Wagner Hosha. He's just a super rough, gritty, grimy fucking guy when he goes to compete.
So rough.
And like, if you don't know what that's like and you just go to your like little polite rolls in your jiu-jitsu school and then you go to compete against him, like, even if you're technically better than him, you're going to have problems because it's going to be like, oh, this person
just hit me.
Right, exactly. This guy's like doesn't like me or something. Like, he's trying to hurt me. Like, this is not just like nice, polite jujitsu. And it's like, hey man, I get it. Like, on a day-to-day basis, like, do you want all your rounds to be like that? Like, probably not. Like, but at the same time, you got to be ready for it. For sure. Because there's going to be people that are going to do it. And if it's going to throw you completely off your game, you see people, they break. Like, stuff like that happens. Their hands are thrown up in the air. They're not even paying attention to the fight or the grappling match anymore. They're worried about what offensive thing that this person did to them,
Yeah, I think you don't want to always train like that, but have days where you do that occasionally. Back when I was teaching a lot, I would like once a week, make the guys put on MMA gloves and be like, you're hitting each other. Yeah. Not hard, just tagging each other. And some of these guys, the first time they'd be like panicking, like, whoa, all of a sudden they're hitting the face. You realize how much it changes their jiu-jitsu up. It's like, that's a lot different. But you can adapt to that quick. You can learn like, where I can move, where you can't. It makes it a real martial art when you do that.
Right. And things like that, I was so excited to get involved in. Now granted, I was at a different place in my life. Like, I was 19 years old, and like, what else? It's not like it's not like I'm a 35-year-old dude who runs a successful business who can't get a black eye, right? So, when Tom the Blast started running MMA practices, like, I was, over the moon. Like, I was so excited because it's like, oh man, now we actually get to see, like, when I go to try to do this half guard sweep, like, am I going to be able to do it when somebody's trying to punch me in the face? Like, to really feel that, it's just a different thing. But that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, I don't think even the people that are like professionals in the sport in jiu-jitsu, I don't think that the majority of them these days in the most recent generation would be excited for that. It's like, you guys are doing MMA practice, you stay over there. I don't want anything to do with that.
I don't know Tom well, but I've noticed Tom always will defend you and Gordon, whatever, matter what, and you guys will always defend him, whatever matter what. And I love the loyalty. It doesn't matter, what it is. He always seems like he has your back, and it seems like it goes both ways. Is that correct?
Yeah, man. For the most part, like, the only exceptions I'll make is obviously we have our own little, when we're arguing with each other. Obviously we have with our each own other.
That's a completely separate situation.
But for the most part, if somebody publicly goes after one of us, 100%. That's something that I'm very happy that I came up, learning that was like something of value. It's very unsettling to me these days to see people kind of going after their own, in certain ways. Like, as I see, like, I'll see this is a weird comparison to draw, but like even with comedians, right? Like you would think that the majority of comedians would all understand it's like, hey, we're all, walking this tightrope of like being offensive, whatever it is that I'm saying is going to be acceptable, whatever. And then like when they make a little misstep and it's construed by some group of people as this like super, I don't know if we want to say offensive, racist, whatever it is that they're having a problem with. And then you'll see like other comedians like try to tear that comedian that's getting attacked down. And it's like, dude, you don't think you're next? You know what I mean? You don't think you're next on the chopping block? So it's like, yeah, man, it's super important to have like a core group of people who it's just like, man, no matter what, we're together. Like I might not necessarily agree with everything that Gordon does or Tom does or like anybody does, but I got these guys' backs. And I remember one time this chick on Instagram Gordon posted something crazy as he does, right? And like,
shocking.
And she's like, are you okay with this, that, and everything? I'm like, dude, I was like, do you think in your wildest dreams that you're gonna get me to publicly talk like and tell and like talk shit about like my best friend in the whole world, like on social media, and I'm gonna like demean him for you or for anybody else? Like, hell no, dude. I might not agree with him, but like I'm not gonna like publicly shame this guy for that. Like, it's crazy.
It's so funny when I first started posting really controversial political stuff, guys would be like, oh, what are Nate and Nick Diaz going to think about this? Like, I'm going to go tell them, like, these guys are some of my best friends. Whether we agree or disagree, you think they're going to care what I'm tweeting? Are you guys, you really think you're going to get over our friendships over my tweets? That's how delusional people are. But you see these celebrities throwing their friends under their bus over tweets and stuff. And it happened, this guy, Owen Benjamin, just had my podcast, comedian. He got thrown under the bus because he was like, made some trans jokes before it was popular. And I think, made a couple jokes about Jews and stuff like that. And all the comedians like ostracized him. Now they're all doing the same jokes. It just shows so many people.
I think I follow him. I've seen some of the stuff.
Yeah, funny guy. I've had him on a couple times.
Funny.
Yeah, he's a funny guy, but he was pretty much pushed out of the Hollywood scene. And it's like, it's crazy. Like if I strongly disagree with what one of my friends does, I'm just not going to say anything. Right. But I'll never, publicly trash a friend. Sure. It's just, you just don't do that.
Yeah. And speaking to that loyalty thing too, like that's one of the things I've noticed with you that like is like a super, and I'm not surprised that you're commenting on that, within my group too, because that's one of the things that I've noticed with you in a number of different ways. Like whenever, somebody has like, had a beef with somebody or like whatever the case may be, like you're always like in your friend's corner, you know what I mean? And it's like, you're ready to go at a moment's notice. Like, we're all fighting this guy. Yeah, okay. Right. I guess we're fighting this guy. Like Jake doesn't need to know, XYZ reasons why we have to fight this guy. It's just like we're fighting, and then I guess we'll find out what the reason is later.
Yeah, if my friend gets me in stupid fights, I could be like, "Could you stop doing that?" But I'm gonna back him up still. I'm not gonna sit there and not help. It's
at least in the moment, right?
Yeah, and loyalty. I'm not gonna say any names, but I watched someone who pretty much built the guy's life up and did so much for him, and then he just like left you, and I was just like, wow. I won't say any names, but I'm sure you might think what I'm talking about.
Yeah, stuff like that, has happened, and like again, like I'm not like trying to. Yeah, I don't need to drag anybody or anything, but like I do generally. That's another thing where, okay, kind of talking about like us coming in through different generations of jiu-jitsu. It's another thing where I think as we've moved forward into the future, people want to treat jiu-jitsu gyms the way that they would just treat like the average business. And they want it to be, or at least some part of them want, they mention these things on social media or whatever the case may be, wants the jiu-jitsu experience to be like, well, I paid my money. I paid my X amount of money a month, $200 a month or whatever the case may be. I get this in return, I get my jiu-jitsu training or whatever the case may be. And it's a transactional relationship where, and that's that. And it's like, well, if I want to train somewhere else, if I want to do this, if I want to do that, if I want to wear whatever color gi, if I want to do, like, I'm allowed to do whatever I want to do because I'm paying my $200. And it's like, dude, like, this isn't Burger King, bro. Yeah. And you really, and at the end of the day, like, I think that people don't realize, like, you don't want it to be Burger King, man. No. It can be, if you make it like that, it's like, it can go both ways. Like, if you want my gym to be a transactional relationship, fine. When you go to compete and and you want somebody to corner you, guess who's not going to be there?
Yeah,
this guy.
Exactly.
Because are you paying me extra to go corner you? Are you paying me extra to go when you send me a video of like your most recent match and you want me to comment on it, or you ask, or it's, class just finished and you want to ask me a question about a move. Oh yeah, you can book a private, buddy.
Yeah,
instead of me answering the question. Like, if you really want it to be a transactional relationship, we can make it that way. But I don't think it's the best way to do things. Like, it should really, people make fun of this sort of thing in like a corporate structure, and I kind of understand why they do, because it's like, corporate structure, we're a family, you know what I mean? And they're really just kind of bullshitting. But like in jiu-jitsu, it really kind of is that it is a family, because you have to have that level of trust. Like we were talking about the fact that we add violence into what we do. It's like, man, when you add violence into what you do, you can't just like have a transactional relationship, because the guy that you're training with could break your arm.
Hurt you. Yeah, you have to trust your training partners.
You have to be able to trust each other. You have to have some level of loyalty. So if everything's transactional, it's a disaster, man.
Yeah, a little bit off subject, but I spent years training with Nick Diaz, and neither one of us ever hurt each other. And we were sparring really hard, and that just shows you. But there's certain people that are always hurting everyone, so you do have to have trust. And it gets tricky. The other side to it is a lot of these coaches don't really offer much, and they're just kind of trying to suck money. You actually offer a lot to your students. You care about your students. So we come in these teams where we care. So it goes both ways. Some of these structures is pay me more, pay me more. We're doing it for the love, not for the money. So it gets a little tricky. There's two sides to it.
It's a two-way street for sure when it comes to loyalty, and it's something that I think, especially like in the early days, and I'm sure you've experienced it specifically with Brazilians, it's often a very do as I say, not as I do sort of situation, where it's like loyalty, loyalty, loyalty until the reverse is expected. Until you need their loyalty.
It's like, loyalty,
oh, well, actually. So it's like, I'm just saying, it's like there has been plenty of times where I've seen, thankfully for me, in my own experiences, all the people for the most part that I've been involved with, it hasn't been that way. It hasn't been like a situation where they were asking for loyalty and didn't give it back. But I've seen tons of that throughout my career with other people, where, such and such person wants this undying loyalty from all of their students. Like, let's say, for example, oh, hey, I don't want you to open up a gym X amount of distance from me, right? And then everybody obeys that. They don't do it. They're polite. They're everything like that. And then they open their gym, X amount of distance away. And then one of their Brazilian buddies moves to the US and wants to open up a gym. They have no problem with their Brazilian buddy opening it 10 minutes from the gym of the American that opened up his gym. It's like, oh yeah, well, I mean, he's my buddy from Brazil, so it's cool. It's like, well, wait, like, where's the loyalty that's supposed to go both directions, street. Right? It's like, come on.
You got to pay attention. I'm very loyal, but I'm only loyal to people loyal to me. Like, here's another good one that gets me. I'll be training for a fight, right? And then I help someone train for a fight. Then it's my turn. They disappear. But that's what was great. I always had, Nick, Nate, Gil Melendez. They always helped me, so I always helped them. We were all loyal together. I know you and Gordon, if I needed help, you guys would come and help me, but I would help you off, Right. So these guys are going to be loyal back when you need something. It's not just, I need this. Oh, I need this. Oh, yeah, I can't do that. So you got to pay attention with this loyalty thing of who's loyal back to you. That's what. Yeah. So it is tricky. Don't just be loyal to everyone, because a lot of people just take. Hey guys, Jake Shields here. If you want to support Fight Back Podcast, our brand new sponsor is Think Zinc. They're a company that supports free speech, and they're opposed to genocide. This is a 7-1 formula with all the highest grade vitamins and minerals. It has magnesium, zinc, vitamin E, vitamin C, and house and MCT oils. This is great for elite athletes and the common person. Methylene blue has been used for over 100 years for medical purposes and recently surged back into popularity. It has been shown to help repair brain tissue and improve memory, cognitive function, energy, and mood. Research suggests that methylene blue could have neuroprotective effects, possibly aiding in conditions like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and depression. Go to MerakiMedicinal.com and use the promo code FIGHTBACK for a discount.
100%. Yeah, Tom has mentioned that to me a ton of times, throughout, and it was really a mentorship that he'd given to me since I was young. I started training with him when I was like 15, 16 years old, something like that. And that was something he always pointed out to me too. He's like, pay attention to like these people that are like only here like when it's convenient for them. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he's even pointed it out specifically over the years. Again, not going to drag anybody, but like he's like, oh, that such and such person, like I in this moment, like that they didn't get up, like they these such and such people were ready to support you, and I watched that person, and they just sat down. They weren't interested in like doing anything.
Yep, and like good examples when I'm fighting Dan Henderson and George St. Pierre, everyone's trying to be involved in the camp. You got 1 million people showing up, trying to, I'm here for you. We're best friends, and you lose a fight, half the guys are gone.
Yep.
So it's you better pay attention. And, that's something I learned a little later. Like, you better pay attention. Don't just be loyal to people that are just using and sucking off you.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, switch up jiu-jitsu a little bit. That's what we're talking jiu-jitsu. But let's go. Let's go. I think you're known. You have world titles, Abu Dhabi place. Let's talk about EBI, which is people know the Eddie Bravo Invitational.
Right.
This really blew you up. This was a submission only. Was it 16-man tournaments?
Yeah, 16-man tournaments.
Yeah, and at the time, Jiu-Jitsu had hardly any money in it. What were they paying? It was paying pretty good at the time.
It was funny. It was funny because Eddie started because Eddie is very he talks and he's always got like a lot of emotion and passion in like what he's talking about. So he puts out this video talking about EBI when the first EBI is going to come out. And he's like, this is what I envision. There's going to be like $1 million, and it's going to be 250,000 per submission and this, that, and the other thing. He's like, well, at the beginning, I mean, I don't know if we're going to have any money. Like maybe it'll be like $1,000. Like who knows? You know what I mean?
$1 million, 1,000, somewhere between.
And I was like, I'm like laughing as I'm watching the video. And when he puts on the first event, I don't know exactly what was planned for, but I think that the cash prize, they did two divisions at first instead of doing just one tournament. They would do like 170 and 155 or something like that. And so it was like $2,000 total, I think. But you had so you got like $250 like per submission or something. But again, you only got the money. And this is one of the things that I think people kind of screwed up over the years trying to use the EBI rule set. Yeah. You only got the money if you submitted people. Yeah. So at the end, like if you submitted everybody, you got the full $1,000, which I did when I won the first EBI. But like people try to use the EBI rule set now, like for other random tournaments that aren't EBI related. And like they don't add that in, and then they're surprise, when all the matches are like kind of boring and people are just stalling because they just want to win at the end match of the tournament. And it's like, well, you created that because there's no incentive anymore. Yeah. But anyway, sorry, I know you didn't specifically ask about that.
No, that's fine.
But yeah, that's kind of it was funny. He had like this huge vision. At first it was like $1,000 and then it grew very quickly though. Yeah. Like it was like after that. It
was really big for a second when you were winning EBI, I remember.
Yeah, it was like right after that first or second event, I think they went straight to like, I want to say it was like 25K or something like that. And then when they did the absolute version that Mia and Gordon were in, they did I think 50K or whatever, and that might have been the max that they ever reached.
But people were basically getting paid nothing at that time too.
Right. Oh, it was absurd amounts of money for like the time period.
Yeah. I want to add to the EBI rules you mentioned. Basically, the rules it was submission only, but then these overtimes. This is what happened is people started gaming the system where they would stall through the round. They would spend like half of their training sessions just doing the escapes overtime. That's like lame. You're spending half of your jiu-jitsu time just escaping arm bars and back. So these guys were only practicing for EBI, so it made it a little bit lame. But initially it was awesome.
Yeah, I think it's tricky. Like when you do it in that tournament format, like I think you have to do the prize incentive. I think that's really important. Otherwise, okay, it's one thing if there's like a little bit of stalling in some of the matches, but like if you do that prize incentive, it's at least gonna encourage some people to be really going for it and trying to go for the submission. But then when they take EBI outside of that context and they try to use it, they gotta. I'm not fully, planted in this, but what I'll say is that as I've thought about it over the years, what I think needs to happen is there needs to be, if the match was close enough, if the match wasn't close and it's very obvious that in the context of the 10 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever these guys decide to do, that one guy was beating the hell out of the other guy and it's not even a question. It's like, okay, dude, like that guy had his back like 4 times. Man, what are we doing in overtime for? Exactly. Just have a judge's decision. If it's close enough that it's a little ambiguous, no problem. You do your overtimes. But I think that'll help prevent a little bit of the stalling too. Because if I just like shell up and make it difficult for you to submit me,
there's like going here the whole time, like just not even trying to get out of mount. It's like that's gay.
They get killed, and then it's like now we get into overtime and we win because I just so happened to slip a rear naked when somebody made a wrong move. That's there's always problems with every rule set, but that's the main problem with this one. Yeah. So I think that would be one of the things that fixes it.
Yeah. Actually, I haven't thought of that. That's good. Didn't you do one at heavyweight or something?
Oh, I did it all different weight categories. So
and you're how much you weigh, by the way? You're not very big and you're beating giant guys.
I walk around at like 170 pounds. So for those familiar with weight cutting, if you're walking around at 170 pounds, so if I was fighting in the UFC, I'd fighting at 45, like the maximum. There's probably guys that walk around at 170 that fight at 35. Yeah. You know, so for people, I know it seems crazy to people that don't know about weight cutting. To us, it seems normal, but that's kind of what you're talking about. So I competed in EBI. I want to say two of them were at 155. So that's like probably closer to my true weight class. In grappling, people tend to cut a little less weight. So even though it's technically, you know, it's well above my weight class in MMA, it makes sense in jiu-jitsu because they usually don't give you the same amount of time to weigh in too. It's usually not a full day. I think for EBI, we had like maybe 12 hours or something like that. And then I competed in 170. So that's above my weight class for sure. And then I did... what happened was I think Gordon had to pull out. So I also believe I did a 205. So I won. Sorry, I shouldn't just say I did. I won the 155 pound one twice. I won the 170 pound one once. I won the 205, which that was a pullout from Gordon. And then I competed with Gordon in the absolute. I lost against Yuri, but then Gordon ended up winning the whole thing.
Guy,
And there was.
Didn't you beat Vinny at one of them, which is insane?
Yes,
this guy's
that was
a
the 205
world champion, giant. This guy's one of the best in the world. It was just an epic match with Vinny.
That was a cool one. Yeah, that was the 205 one. And then maybe I did 2 at 170 also, because I know I won 5 times. So I'm not exactly sure where all of those lie. But yeah, I did 1 at 205 because Gordon had to pull out. This is a funny story about that. So for anybody that at the time was following Gordon, they probably have heard of Big Gord before. It was Gordon's father.
Yeah.
And Gordon's father was a character. But his father didn't have, he really believed in his son. And he didn't soften the blow. Like if he thought you sucked or you had a shitty performance. Now he didn't really understand jiu-jitsu, the way that we understand jiu-jitsu, but it doesn't matter. Whatever his opinion was, he would have no problem telling you. Like there was a period of time where he pissed off Taza, I think, because Taza had like a poor jiu-jitsu performance. One time he watched and he's like, yeah, he's a fucking quitter or something like that. And like Taza was just so mad at him and stuff. But so one time after the 205 EBI, I had just won. I think I got like 10 grand, right? So it's like 5,000 per submission. And it would have been 20 if I had gotten all of them by submission. Yeah. And Big Gord shakes my hand and he's looking me in the eye. He has no problem saying what he's going to say. And he's like, yeah. He's like, good job, Gar. He's like, it's a shame Gordon couldn't do it, so he could have won all the money. But good job, buddy. Like you just won. You did okay.
Yeah, you just did something amazing. You won like 50 pounds above your weight. In pretty much any other sport that'd be unheard of. In wrestling or mixed martial arts, there's no way someone your size could come and win. But it's still very, very difficult in jiu-jitsu. But it's the one sport where at least there's like a possibility of it.
Yeah.
So that's a big weight difference in like competition sports.
Yeah.
What you did was just so impressive. That's hilarious. You did all right.
But Big Gord humbled me. Don't worry.
Yeah, he would definitely tell you. Like you said, Taza quit. Why did you quit? It's the worst thing you could say. Like everyone else just like stays away from him. You feel bad, like, oh, this poor guy's feeling shame right now. Yeah. It's the worst, you losing sometimes it's the worst feeling as fighters. For sure. Sometimes you don't even go say something to anyone. You just know they're just so mentally bothered. It's like, oh, I'm not even gonna try to talk to him. You can just look in the eye at someone sometimes and be like, oh, it's not even worth talking to him.
Yeah.
It's a rough sport, the winning and losing. We put so much on the line emotionally. Well, you switched to fighting now, which is that jumps it
really
a level.
ramps it up.
That really jumped it up a level because I used to get nervous when I competed jiu-jitsu, but then I fought and then I came back and it's kind of funny after you fight, right? The level difference.
It's a different thing, man. Everybody that ends up fighting that came from a jiu-jitsu background says the same thing. They say exactly what you just said, which is like the anxiety is just a completely different thing. I remember after my first fight, for a while, I forget exactly which government representative it was, but he in Jersey, he was like trying to prevent, or maybe New York, sorry. He was trying to prevent MMA from being legal for a while. Do you remember who that was?
In New York?
Yeah, because for a while it wasn't legal.
No, yeah, I remember. I can't remember who it was. If I heard the name, I can't remember who that was.
But either way, I remember hearing that and being like, oh man, he's crazy, whatever. Like, this is stupid, whatever. We have boxing, like what, And it was just a funny experience. Like after my very first fight, I go, oh, I totally understand why people think this should be illegal. Like this should definitely be illegal. We should not allow people to do this. Like this is nuts. So yeah, it's a super crazy feeling like being in there, man. It's, getting punched feels like getting hit with rocks. Like just so anybody knows, it doesn't feel like somebody's punching you. It feels like somebody clubbed you. Like the first time I got hit.
You guys hit hard that are hitting you. Yeah. Keep in mind, it's not normal people that are hitting you. It's the best fighters in the world that are hitting you.
Yeah. Like I remember getting hit like a little bit like behind the ear with like a left hook. And I was like, did somebody, like I wanted to like look over my shoulder to make sure somebody didn't hit me from behind, It's like, it's crazy, man. It's such a crazy experience. But what goes along with that level of crazy experience is probably it's probably something, approximating like, because I've never done this before, like skydiving or something where it's like, there's like this crazy risk and it's super dangerous and like all these sorts of things. But like the payoff at the end, especially when you win, obviously, is, just that same level of anxiety amplified as a positive emotion. And it's like, I haven't had kids yet, so maybe that is better. I don't know. But everything else that has ever happened in my life for the most part, it's like, wow, how do you compare it to like that feeling when you've won a fight?
I mean, you could say kids are better in the long run, but not as far as a burst like that.
Right, a burst of energy in the moment.
No energy that's just going to be a burst like this. The intensity, just the whoa, thousands and thousands of people live, millions potentially watching on TV. There's nothing that I think even close to it. It's intense. I mean, there's been a few fights when you're like, why do I do this before the fight? And then you win, you're like, I love it. I can't wait to the next one.
This.
You're just like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's like, why do I do this sport? I hate it. I'm cutting weight. I'm miserable. I got to go fight this killer. Because we're not fighting normal people. We are fighting complete savages, know, and there's a lot on the line. Yeah. The amount of money you could lose if you lose a fight, injuries, embarrassment. It's the most intense thing that I've ever done.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine. Like, I'm sure like actual war, is probably about as close.
That would be a level above it.
Definitely a level above it. But like, if you're not doing that, like, I don't know if you're as a normal human being going through life, without being in the military, it's probably about as close as it's going to get,
Yeah, it's addictive. That I think, to relate, like, I think there's like nothing more than I don't love anything more than fighting. I don't hate anything more than fighting. It's like, you love it and hate it, right?
Yes.
It's like,
I was so Jason Nelf's been training with us, and his wife was in the gym, and I just introduced myself or whatever, and she was like, "Oh, what do you do, whatever?" And I'm like, "Oh, I fight and this that." She's like, "Do you love it?" And I like I couldn't just like be like, "Yes."
No,
if you ask me that, if somebody asked me
you
that
could
about
lie and say that, but
like if somebody asked me that about jiu-jitsu, I wouldn't think about it for a second. I'd be like, "Yeah, of course, love jiu-jitsu. It's great, blah 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 blah." I could list off a million reasons, but she said that, and it always gives me pause when somebody says that. It's like, sort of. Like, yeah, kind of. I love it. Like, there's definitely parts that I don't love, though. It's like sometimes you have like a real, these real bad training sessions, or obviously like losing a fight is probably one of the worst fucking things that anybody could experience. It's just
especially when you put your whole heart and soul out there, your training you go through, and to lose a fight is just devastating.
And that's one of the things, like, even when I'm watching fights, right? And I don't know how you feel about this, but like, even as I like, it's not every single time, but especially if it's somebody I care about too, as I watch somebody like walk out, I'm like reliving that experience to some degree. And I'm thinking about all the things that I would normally be thinking about walking out. And it just makes it like this crazy, miraculous thing that they're even getting out there to do that. And what a lot of people, it's probably very difficult for them to conceptualize is that it's not just this one moment. You've been getting ready for this for so long, like arguably since the very first time you started training.
Yeah, our whole lives for people like us.
And when that goes wrong, like, oh man, that is crushing, because you did so much, and it's so much pain and sacrifice to get to that place that, like, when it doesn't go right and it feels like it's like all for nothing in that moment. Obviously it's not. Like, you make mistakes, and like losses have their own way of, motivating you to do better and these sorts of things. Like, we can all say those sorts of things, but anybody would be lying if they're like, oh, losing is no big deal. It's like, dude, it sucks.
It's devastating watching some of my closest, because I'd be cornering my closest friends a lot of times, and it's just tough. It can be hard, but the wins can be high too, like good examples are like, both the Nate Diaz Connors, that turned him into a multimillionaire overnight.
Right.
Just, there's those moments when you're like, oh, you just became a superstar overnight by beating, he should have already been a star. Nate Diaz was a legend among the fighters, but that put him to mainstream celebrity. And be in the corner right there for that. It's just like the energy and the exciting. I remember cornering him. I think it was John was like making fun of me because of the cornering. I'm just like talking crap to Connor the whole time.
Love it.
I was like so embarrassed, but then John's like, no, he's like, actually that was kind of good because you were just getting in his head because I could see he was getting tired. He was getting tired that second round. I could see it. So I just like completely just stopped coaching Nate and I just started talking shit to Connor.
Right. Yeah.
But then I seen him looking over being like, oh shit, I think he's right. I'm like, oh, you're tired, Connor. You're going to fold. You're going to quit.
That's funny, man.
Yeah,
I'm a huge shit talker in the corner too. Like I at least more, I used to be much more so, but I still have a little bit of it in me. Mm-hmm. I remember one time Gordon was competing in this thing. It's called a PGL and he's competing against this kid and Gordon did something and the kid was like laughing, like whenever he did what he did. And I just remember screaming from the corner, he's laughing at you, Gordon. Give him a reason to laugh. Like, I just like screaming. And like the other guy that coached him, the gym that I eventually took over, his name was Hazim Ibrahim, who ran Brunswick Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is now Garry Tonon Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah. He was like in the corner with me helping coach Gordon. And he goes, hey, Garry, could we maybe do like a little less shit talking from the corner? Like I'm like, I don't think so.
No, John said pretty interestingly because I was like embarrassed when he was watching that, and John goes, actually, I'm way over analytical and not emotional enough. So sometimes I like to corner with someone who's a little more emotional because I don't bring that in. I'm only analytical mind, so I loved mixing the two. And I'm like, he said with GSP, they'd bring in this guy who would just get him emotionally hyped up.
Christoph,
okay, so there's a little bit of both. And ideally, I'm doing both, but I think for that one fight, I just got caught away. Because I hated Connor so much at the time, all I wanted to do was talk shit to him.
Yeah, for sure. And there's definitely those like wild card kind of things that take place. Like, you want to like, especially with a guy like John, you're looking at like a fight and you're trying to dissect things like as super scientifically, and there's a reason for everything, and you're trying to give this technical advice. But there's definitely these X factors that play a role, like a person's motivation or how they're feeling in the moment, or giving them some kind of some like a kick in the butt to like hey man, you really need to win this round, that sort of thing, like that for sure plays some role. I don't think it's the most important thing, but it definitely plays some role. And I would agree with him that like it's probably nice to have a little bit of both. I try to bring that into my corners as well.
And some fighters are affected by it. You gotta pay attention to each athlete individually too. Right. Some people are majorly affected by it, some not at all. So you really got to pay attention to that. I mean, you've done quite a bit coaching as well, which is you were coaching your whole career. Well, let's get into that in a second. Let's first jump into you were like, one of the promising up and coming stars, 9-1, dominating flashy submissions in ONE FC, and they haven't fought you in a year, which is extremely disappointing with how popular they are. I mean, I'm not sure what you can talk about that, but it's just really disappointing you haven't fought in so long. And held off in your contracts.
No, I mean, I don't think it's wrong for me, no matter what's going on, for me to say like I'm not, I'm obviously not happy to have not been fighting, but I would say that like, when you get involved with like grappling is one thing, it's getting more professional, but fighting is at a level where, you have to deal with like pretty lengthy contracts and things like that. And there's a lot of stipulations and a lot of things that you got to fight for when you go to sign your contract and stuff like that. And it's not as straightforward. It's not as straightforward as people think it is. You're going to get this amount of money. You're going to fight this amount of times. There's a lot more to it. There's extensions. There's all different kinds of things that can happen. And you really got to be, be careful. Basically over the last over that period of time, I've just been doing my absolute best job to make sure that whatever it is that I do in the future, I'm gonna be able to put my best foot forward and like have the best case scenario for my future. And that's unfortunately it's taken a really long time. I agree with you. I much would have rather have fought much sooner. But at the end of the day, like I'm not looking to rush into something stupid. Yeah. And if waiting an extra 6 months means that like I'm going to have a much better future, it's probably worth it. It's unfortunate that that's what it costs, but that it is what it is, man. And so that's what I'm trying to hash out now. I think it's very likely that, you'll see me back in ONE, you'll see me fighting for a championship again. I think they pulled me from the rankings because it's been so long since, since I fought or whatever. But, yeah, I mean that's what I see for my future. Who knows? Nothing. Nothing is confirmed yet, but that's my goal. Is to be the champion over there and continue my MMA career. And who knows what'll happen in the future. But right now, that's what we're working on. But yeah, I want to get a fight ASAP, man. It's been a long time.
A lot of people want to see you fight.
It's been about a year.
A lot of people want to see you in the UFC as well. You know, if that could happen, I would love to see you fight in those UFC 45 pounders. But if ONE FC pays you good, they're also a phenomenal show. They're like, they're just not as big in America is the problem. They are massive throughout Asia, and they have a lot of money behind them. But lately, been criticized by a lot of people. But I want to get into that since it's a good chance to be signed. But I know a lot of people were going off on him like a month ago.
Yeah, I mean, well, it is what it is, man. You know, I mean, whatever happens between other athletes and their organization, like that's their business, and that's what they got to deal with. I've for sure seen some of that stuff, but speaking positively, like you just mentioned about what they bring to the table that a lot of these other organizations don't, like, the kickboxing, like, and Muay Thai and stuff that they're integrating into their MMA shows is just incredible, man. Like, it's so cool to be a part of, to be able to go to those shows and then be able to watch that. And I think that's a huge selling point. And it's also great what they're doing with grappling. I know Tom the Blast now is working with them to kind of set up their grappling showcases. Like he's one of the guys that's negotiating with athletes and trying to sign them and stuff like that now. So I think that's going to help them out a lot because he's a super motivated, super hardworking. You had already mentioned a ton of other good things about Tom, and I think he's going to bring a lot to that company. And they've already signed like a lot of really great talent. Giancarlo just signed. And,
nice.
So that's another cool thing for the grappling community too. Again, speaking to the lack of professionalism in grappling back when I started doing EBI and the low level of money that was involved in the sport. That's one of the cool things that I think they'll be able to bring to the table too, is like these athletes will for sure get paid, what they deserve. But one of the things I'll say with that to these athletes, just as like a little PSA, it's like when that is happening, like, hey guys, let's make sure the professionalism goes both ways. We were talking about this when we first got into the studio about like, jiu-jitsu guys being late and stuff like that. And it's all funny, but it's like, hey man, like if people are paying you good money, like, make sure that you do what you need to do to like, to fulfill your end of the bargain. You know what I mean?
Don't think this is guaranteed and you're getting paid for no reason. Think you deserve it because you're lucky that there's finally money in jiu-jitsu. These guys need to realize there was no money before.
Because some of these people are getting paid crazy money, and then like really, it's weird some of the complaints that they're having.
Yeah, what they're getting paid for grappling. It's not that hard to do a grappling match.
Probably more than I got paid for MMA fights.
Right.
And it's
the amount of free grappling matches I did, I'm like, wait, they're paying people now for this? It's like after you fight, you realize how easy it is. It's like kind of laughable. But no, ONE FC does have a lot of good things to offer. So I just know they were going through a transitional period. I hope it gets together and blows back up and starts keeping their fighters happy.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, hold on quick.
All good.
So how was, because you guys were in New York your whole career, right?
Yeah.
And then you switched to Puerto Rico for a second?
It was interesting, man. I personally, for the most part, loved Puerto Rico. Like, I would say that for sure there was frustrations and problems. It was also during COVID, so like, of course, anywhere you were,
time.
Yeah, anywhere you were in the world, it made things more difficult. Even the best places to be during COVID, Texas being one of them, there was issues. Like when we visited here, I had issues. There was at least some period of time where things were difficult. I remember getting like yelled at in a restaurant because I like cracked open the door, like trying to ask if we could like eat outside. It was just like a whole thing. Then that was in Texas. So it was happening everywhere. But Puerto Rico was beautiful. First of all, I was like 10 minutes walk from a beach, like not even just like a beach, like what I had like living in Jersey where it's this huge public beach and there's like a million people there. It's like I was 10 minutes walk from like a beach where there was nobody. Like I could just hang out by myself and just have like a beautiful ocean and
that part's beautiful.
And I was paying like what I would say like half of what I'm paying now for like a 3-bedroom apartment, and there that's like in a gated, like not a gated community like what like the super wealthy people there live in, but like just so that you have like some protection,
a little safety.
Exactly.
Is crime pretty bad in Puerto Rico?
With the locals, like it is with like when you're like a tourist or something like that, like somebody like me, more than likely you're not going to have too many problems. Like they really don't like screw with people too much unless you're getting your nose and stuff that you probably shouldn't be. And like we used to go to La Perla all the time, and it's like a pretty bad area. And like, I mean, I have some street smarts from like being around New York City and stuff like that. So I wasn't like, looking to follow anybody that I didn't know, around any corners or anything. But we went there with people and we didn't bother with anybody that we shouldn't bother. And we had a fine time. It was one of the places we liked to go to there. We thought it was really cool. We hung out there probably more than most places in Puerto Rico because during COVID, a lot of stuff was shut down, but La Perla was like kind of like, because it's a little bit.
Didn't really follow the rules.
Right, exactly. But you could kind of like get away with stuff. So we would go out and drink or eat or whatever when we were out there. But yeah, man, I mean, I think there was a lot of complaints with people. One of the things that's like frustrating is like when you go to like a restaurant or something like that, it's going to take double the time to like get your food and stuff.
Yeah, no one's in a hurry there.
Yeah, nobody's in a hurry. It's hard. Like
it's too isolated to bring training partners out there though too, to build a real team.
Well, so sort of. What's interesting about that I think, because Puerto Rico is like a destination that people would go to for like a vacation.
Yeah.
A lot of like, it's easy to sell. Like you're telling your girlfriend like, oh, hey, let's go to Puerto Rico for a week. And she's like, yeah sure. Oh, hey, let's go to Austin, Texas for a week. And they're like, okay, that's maybe.
True. But way easier to people to actually move. It's easier to get people to actually move here though and start a life. Right. You can't really move to start a life in Puerto Rico unless you already have money.
I see what you're saying. Like you kind of have to have a certain type of person to be able to drop everything that they're doing and live.
You have to have a way to make income to Puerto Rico. There's no like jobs in Puerto Rico, I wouldn't think.
I mean, it's hard to say fully like what people would have done to like fully make it. Obviously, guys were teaching privates and stuff like that too. So it's not like there was no money there to be had or anything. People made it work. But I agree with you. Like you're right in the sense that it's a little bit less livable for like the average person.
Yeah.
So it would be hard to get somebody to commit to, adding on to the team or whatever the case may be. But I think because of what we brought to the table, if we did actually successfully set up a gym there, it's like a, if you build it, they will come sort of situation. True. Eventually people would have built up a team.
You could have, but I think Austin's a much better, easier place to move people. It's hard to live out in a little island without much of economy. And Austin's like, other than New York, I mean, New York was booming, but you didn't like New York. I love New York, but you didn't like New York. Huh?
It was New York was a cool place to visit, but New York was not some place I ever really wanted to like live. You know what I mean? But I mean, hell, dude, I liked it enough to travel there like 2 hours or between an hour and a half to 2 hours every day to get there to train. Now it wasn't really New York I was coming for; it was the training. You know what I mean? So if I could have had that and not driven 2 hours, I would have.
Yeah, if you would have lived in Manhattan, you might have felt a little different too, because that commute might make you hate it a little bit.
Maybe. I think it's tough, man. I think when it's similar to like city people like have a tough time integrating in more rural environments and vice versa. Like I grew up my whole life having a backyard and, having like a place you could go for a walk and like things like that.
That part's hard about New York, that's why I burned out on New York. I lived for a couple of years, then I burned out on it. So I moved. I remember I was in New York and during the COVID lockdowns, that was nuts. I went to go out to the bars and they were like shut. I thought it was like a joke. I didn't think anyone was listening. I'm like, wait, people are actually staying in over some cold? Yeah. That's what made me start following politics. I'm like, people are fucking insane. Yeah. They're scared of a cold. That was just madness in New York.
It was one of the first times where I think it was how a lot of people ended up getting pushed in a political direction, because I think it was one of the first times where something impacted almost everybody that was like a political issue. Most of the political issues that had ever arisen prior to that, for the most part, unless it like directly impacted a specific group of people, I could see them getting up in arms about it. But for the most part, the mainstream public wasn't massively impacted by anything political that was going on. But that was the beginning of institutions and policies that really made it difficult for people to just not just impacted, but like just live everyday life like a normal human being. It's like, it's one thing to like cause some small problem in a person's life. It's another thing to like shut down their business.
All your businesses, people going out of business. You can't go to restaurants. You can't do that. You can't train jujitsu. Yeah. Like I have a lot of energy. You do too. And all of a sudden, I just moved to San Francisco, just tired from fighting. Like, oh, you can't go train jujitsu. You can't go to the beaches. You can't go hike. You can't do this. What am I gonna do? Blow my fucking brains out? It's like, I can't just
Some people did, sadly.
I know they did, I mean, I would never be suicidal about my thing, but it's like, what it was still driving me crazy. It was the point, there was like a week where I started drinking at home by myself, and I'm like, oh, this isn't healthy. I'm gonna lose. I can't just sit still. And I think you probably have the same thing. And it wasn't. People aren't all the same. Some people have no problem staying home, do nothing all day. For me, I can't live life that way. Yeah, that's what I realized. And I have a good immune system, so I don't get sick. So I'm not really worried about COVID. Yep. That I think radicalized a lot of people when you're like, oh, the government is not our friends.
Yeah. I think one of the things that was tricky about it too is, and this is probably true for a lot of different situations. It's like this is like when you make one policy decision, it has a cascade of effects. And like, just because, for example, you could point to, and we ended up finding out that like it was significantly less dangerous than they tried to push on us.
Less dangerous.
But like, even if some of the things that they were saying are true, it's like, okay, so you have one risk over here, but you can't only talk about that risk. There's 17 other different things that this is going to impact. Yeah. It's going to impact the economy. It's going to impact people's mental health. It's going to impact this. So you can't just point to like this one statistic and then be like, well, because this one thing is true, well, we have to do this. I never heard anybody go, well, I've considered these 16 different metrics, and it seems like the best foot forward that we can make is this. It's like, no, we're making all of our policy decisions based off of like whether or not somebody's going to get sick and die from a disease. And it's like, well, so one good example of that is like driving around automobiles, right? Like, it's pretty dangerous. Like, people die all the time.
But it's worth the risk,
But we found a way to balance out the equation and go, well, we can make it safe enough and it enhances our lives in so many other ways that like, even though it's dangerous, we participate in this thing literally every day.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, there was no plan either. It's like sit and wait it out. Viruses aren't just going to disappear. It was like, I'm not like the brightest guy, but I can look at it and see that the experts were retards. That's why I'm like, these guys are morons or liars. I don't think they're retarded. I think they're liars. Well, I was looking
combination of both.
I was looking at a lot of the studies through the early and that were out in Italy and stuff, and I was seeing that it wasn't that dangerous. But then I would send it to my doctor friends; they wouldn't even read it. I'm like, dude, people would tell me, "You're not a doctor." I'm like, you don't need to be a doctor to read a study and see that it's not dangerous in my demographic. And it showed everyone just like went along with it, pushed it, and they don't weigh the options like how many OD deaths were there, how many suicides were there, how many bankruptcies, how many people broke. It negatively affected a lot of lives.
Right.
Everything's so expensive now because of inflation from the money printing.
Right. That was another, huge thing for sure. I mean, well, we kind of added fuel to that fire. But then you could also say, it's like, well, what were you supposed to do if you tell everybody they can't work? Well, unless you want like rebellion right away.
No, exactly. They had to give money if they you can't work, but just
which in a way probably would have been better, but
yeah, right. Yeah, it would have been. No, it's just insane. It was absolutely insane that people went along with it and they shut the country down. And, hopefully it was a wake up call and people won't go along because they went along with it.
That's what I'm crossing my fingers on, but.
I don't have too much hope though.
Yeah, no. Well, I didn't for the longest time. Like I just recently reopened my gym in the gym in New Jersey in East Brunswick. Just recently opened its own location again. What happened was we literally opened a brand new location, built everything out. Cost probably $50K plus. Whatever. Lost all that money within like 2 months. Like we all had to shut down because of COVID and whatever. And kind of back to what you were saying, like. They're like, oh, we're just going to do this for like X amount of weeks. And I'm like, oh no, it's not. I could, you were talking about like reading studies and stuff like that. Even without seeing any studies,
you see it.
I just go, okay, so we've got this dangerous thing this dangerous disease that's going on, and we're going to all stay inside for 2 weeks. Then what happens when we walk outside? Do you think that the disease is just gone? And now all of a sudden it's like, no, like, everybody just stayed inside. They weren't exposed to it. So the moment we all go outside, everybody's going to get sick again. It's like, so obvious, where do you put the end date? And I knew that they were going to have a problem with that. And there was a lot of pushback there. But sorry, to go back to the gym thing. Yeah. We just recently, it's been that much time. I'm sure some people just had to fold completely. It could have if we didn't have any money saved.
Yeah, like most people don't have money put away. You're fortunate what you did. Yeah. That could have ruined like life savings. That could have destroyed your life.
Exactly. So we were working out of a UFC gym. So because I was unwilling to rent another space because, like you said, I didn't have any confidence that this wasn't going to happen again in 6 months. Who's going to say that somebody's not going to force us to shut everything down again? Yeah. So I was not. Luckily, the UFC gym at the time was willing to organize something where they were like, "Hey, if we get shut down, no rent. Like we're not able to operate, you're not able to operate, no problem." So that was the only business arrangement that made sense for me for a while. But now finally, we just opened up in East Brunswick again. Nice facility. We got the cage, you got the mats and everything, and so my buddy Chris Sadbino, my black belt, is running the program and stuff, and things are going better. Heading in a positive direction. But the point was, it took that long, to get back to that place where we actually have our own location, and I feel confident enough that like we're not going to all of a sudden get shut down because of some new disease.
Yeah. The majority, the average person though that has a gym is not Garry Tonon that can go and have a name and have money and sell DVDs and BJ fanatic and easily rebuild. The average person that completely just destroyed they spent years building it and crashed it, and they don't care about the consequences. The government's just kind of like, oh, screw you. Yeah. And it's sad to all those people that are struggling like that. Yeah. So, but I'm not very impressed with very many people's work ethic, but with you, it was insane. I'm going to go real quick to the day you used to do, like every day. Oh, yeah. So you'd get up, 5 in the morning, 6, 5,
Yeah,
6?
so like 5:30 a.m. on the average day. Yeah.
And drive about 2 hours to the gym. Yep. We'd had training. It was about 7:30 in the morning every day. So we would train, on an hour and a half forever jiu-jitsu, a room of savages. There'd be a quick little lunch break. We'd get lunch, maybe take a quick little pass out on the mat, train again at noon. Again, pro classes. These are amazing people who joined on here. Then there'd be a quick little break. You'd go up a third time and you would spar, or pads, wherever had John and Jit. So 3 workouts back to back, which is insane. Like not easy workouts. Then you would drive back 2 hours. And you had your school you were running, and were you doing a kids class too?
So before I was doing MMA, I taught every class at the gym for the most part. Like every once in a while, somebody fill in when I couldn't be there or something, whatever. But for the most part, I was teaching everything. I was teaching kids, adults, everything. It slowly cascaded as my responsibilities increased. That I was teaching. I was still teaching every day. But I wasn't able to teach like all the classes. Yeah. So I probably stopped teaching the kids class at a certain point. I don't know if that was MMA or if it was like as professional grappling became more of a thing. And then I probably dropped the basic class, which was at like 6:30. And then it became, once I started doing MMA, I was like, okay, realistically speaking, I'm only going to be able to make it to like 7:30 class to teach. So I started teaching 7:30 class every night. Yeah. But I was also running a college program at Rutgers 2 days a week. So sometimes I would go from teaching that class, then to Rutgers, teach there, and then not get home till like midnight. You know what I mean?
And then get up, do it all over again. And we were training 7 days a week during some of those time periods. Like when there's big competitions coming up, it'd be, and the Saturdays and Sundays were just like the pros. So it would be, sometimes the weekend sections, you have some easier rounds, but those the weekend sessions, it's just like, oh, everyone's good. Yeah. And John, we're starting on our feet and we're going at it.
Yeah. I look back at that and I go like, I think it was necessary for the time. Like I think during that period of time in my life, and I think this is probably true for a lot of people, like if you're physically able and you have the ability, like, and this is like, it obviously doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu or MMA. It could have been something else that you were interested in. But if you have the ability to grind, like you don't have the responsibility, like maybe you don't have kids or whatever the case may be, and you don't have to do these other things, and like you can really put the pedal on the metal, and you don't have physical limitations, you don't have a bunch of injuries and stuff, and you can find a way to do it like that. Hey man, I think for some period of your life, it's not a bad thing to do. I don't think that I would have liked to live my life that way, and I don't forever. Yeah. But for some period of time, it's like, hey man, especially with the MMA stuff. Like I started when I was 26. It's kind of late.
You had to catch up.
I had to play catch up. So, there was a lot that I needed to do, and thankfully, I'm in a place now where I feel like I can kind of dial things back, but like it's also because I have to. Like if I tried to train as much as I was training before, I literally just physically, it's not about being sore. It's literally like I wouldn't be able to lift my head off the ground. Like I have injuries that would make it so that if I trained that much, just one day, now I got to sit 2 days out. Because I literally physically am not going to be able to show back up to practice. Yeah. And
you have to watch your body. But like you said, there is a time period. Obviously, you don't want to live your whole life like that. But if you have to do that for 5 years or something and to get ahead, to master things, that's fine. Sometimes that's how you guys jump ahead and become, master something and make money and put it all together. But
it was worth it.
But I work hard and I saw that. I'm like, damn, Gary's schedule is crazy. Yeah. You were just go, go, go. So, but. Off topic. What's that Bud Light? Isn't that like the gay beer? Isn't that the homo beer?
White Claw. All right,
it's less gay than Bud Light.
No, you're right. We were talking about it a little bit before we came on, and it's like I didn't even think about it before I grabbed it. I like kind of forget about it now. Like it's not as much of a talking point as it used to be. That whole situation was so weird, and like I was telling Jake, like I feel. Not that I feel bad because it's a multi-million-dollar company, who cares? But like, but also like I know that policy decision of them to do that probably came from some random chick that they hired to do like, oh, work with our influencers and like help them feel like, you know, help them integrate, you know, our product into like whatever it is that they do. And that chick just like gave the thumbs up to this product. And then before they know it, they're like, oh my God, you know.
I think it was partially that, but then also BlackRock and Vanguard, which are the big investment companies. For a while, they were pushing all these companies to push all that stuff in them. So maybe maybe they realized like, oh, maybe we shouldn't do this because it backfires. So it was kind of good. There's a backlash.
It does feel a little bit like I always kind of try to lean towards people being dumb more than people like having a conspiracy. Yeah. But it does feel like it happened so much in so many different places. Yeah. Like I was listening to a Jordan Peterson podcast recently. There was a guy on there, I forget who he is, but he was pinpointing like companies that have like a high percentage of right-wing customer base. Yeah. And basically like things like Harley Davidson, Tractor Supply. I can't remember. There was a couple other ones. Like things that you would obviously, even without looking at data, you'd go, oh yeah, probably more like a right-wing customer base, obviously. Right? And they had like all these crazy like DEI initiatives and stuff like that like similar to the Bud Light thing that were going on. And this guy was like exposing it because he knew that their customer base like was not on board for that. It's like the antithesis of like anything that these people would want. And so I do think it does feel a little bit like it was happening so much that it's hard to believe that it was just all like little mistakes that happened by individual people. It's like, it does feel like an agenda was trying to be pushed through for sure.
There's videos of Larry Fink, who's like the head guy at BlackRock and well, not Vanguard too, but they work together. And he was saying he was going to force companies to do it and force them to change. I think he might have backed up a little bit, seeing the backlash, but he was basically saying, I'm going to force it, you know, less white people, less this.
There was some,
he says less white people, and he only hires Jews in his top management, but he pushes like diversity everywhere else.
Interesting. There was some, I don't know if it was related to what you were just talking about, but there was some like acronym or something, some organization that had opened that I think it was like they were basically in charge of like analyzing whether or not some groups of companies were or weren't meeting certain DEI, you know, recommendations or whatever the case may be. And if they weren't, they like didn't receive some amount of financial support or something. So it was like some crazy thing where, like you said, there was like kind of like an institutional push to force them to go a specific direction for some of these companies. So yeah, it sucks.
Hopefully that gets pushed back though, I think. And that's why it's good that Bud Light got mocked so hard. I remember I'd be out like at a random bar and a guy would be like, when someone drinking, like random people are like, oh, you homo drinking a Bud Light, just seeing it calling out. I'm like, damn, people are taking this serious. I guess I won't get a Bud Light.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think a lot of it is kind of inevitable, like for it to get moved in a different direction.
You could already see the cancel culture swinging off. I think you know, like for me, example, I bring some extremely controversial guests on. But none of my other guests care. We're like, oh, you want to be on, but I have so many other big guests. It's like I don't care if you bring these controversial people on. Right. Before it'd be like, oh, you talk to this guy, I can't talk to you. But I think cancel culture is like dying.
Yeah,
people are sick of it.
It's kind of crazy, man. I don't know, like. It's a hell of a thing to expect an individual to police also, right? Like it's a hell of a thing for you know, anybody that's listening to this right now to expect me to know every single person that you've ever talked to, all of your political opinions, like and you know, make some like bold statement one way or the other. It's like, dude, you know what was happening? You might have saw this, but I don't know. Yeah. I can't remember the athlete, but there was a UFC fighter. He's being interviewed, and I think he had ties to. I want to say maybe it was somewhere in Ireland or something, but he had ties to some sort of like criminal investor or something. Like a guy basically was like helping, you know, maybe sponsor him or something like that for one of his fights.
I remember we were talking
and they were like interviewing the guy. He's got like a microphone in his face or whatever, and they're asking him all these questions, and he's handling it super well. Like the interviewer is like, oh, you know, what about your ties to like such and such person and this, that, and the other thing. And it's clearly like a guy, you can tell by the way he's responding. It's clearly like a dude who like was either financially or otherwise supporting this guy. And like, it's like, man, like this guy fights for a living. Yeah. Okay. It's one thing when it's like the president or a senator or something. Okay. Yeah. I get your criticism of their associations with certain people, but it's like, dude, like we fight for a living. Like, if some gangster gives me money to help sponsor like one of my fights, like, and the guy's been nothing but great for me, you know, this entire time. Like I'm not going to be commenting on live television about, you know, like what he did or didn't do potentially criminally that I literally have no idea about. You know what I mean? Like,
you know, it's crazy. Yeah, these reporters want you to like denounce people and stuff. Like the Chechen dictator was bringing some fighters out there. I never went, but they had invite once. But they were like freaking out fighters going out there, and it's like I don't know much about Chechenian politics, but if I happen to hang out with a guy and he likes me, I don't need to look it up. I'm not responsible for what he does. And the thing is, a lot of the guests I bring on, I don't even agree with, but they'll be like, oh, he brought this guest on. And it's like I was having a conversation with this guy, trying to hear their perspective. It's weird.
Yeah.
But so that's why I'm like, oh, fuck that. So,
yeah, for sure, man.
So yeah, I think we could wrap up pretty soon. Anything else you want to get into, or
just that I can't like let full details or anything like that, but basically somewhere in like Northwest Austin we'll be opening up a school, me, John, and Gordon very soon. Probably like I think we're about like 8 weeks out, hopefully, from opening. You know, all things all things go well. We've had some rocky patches that took a lot longer than we thought it was going to take. But yeah, so we're going to be opening a gym out that way. So, keep your ears open and ears and eyes open for that.
I recommend anyone anywhere near go to that gym because, you, John, and Gordon are all some of the best teachers in the world and best athletes and good people. So that'll be a great environment. Because right now it's kind of hopping between gyms, which is still great, but it sucks. There's like the regular class, and we got to drive out to the pro class when I heard the last couple of days, which it's still amazing, but it's so much better to be in one spot. And I'm sure John can sit in his office and he'll probably be there all day knowing John. He's a guy who's he's literally the entire day he's at the gym either teaching or he'll go and watch and study videos. I've never seen anyone so obsessed with art. But
right now he's doing 5 classes a day, I think, from basically like 9 to 9 he's teaching.
That's a lot of classes to teach, especially when you don't need the money, because I'm sure he's doing really well financially.
He doesn't have to do it if he doesn't want to.
Teaches 5 classes, insane. I thought he was going to stop teaching the beginners when he started making money. I thought he was like, screw you guys, but it shows that he actually cares, even though he can come off a little cold, I think, but it shows he truly cares about people.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure.
So cool, man. Hey, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it. It's good to see you.